Accessing secure channel. The Agent Files, where aspiring agents rise and masters flourish. Powered by Agent Builder Coaching. Mission initiated. File loading.
Hi there again. This is Peter Fan for Agent Builder Coaching and for Agent Files podcast. And in this section, we're talking about those that are almost ready to be agents. So you probably have passed your exam, or you're just about to write your exam, or you're kind of in that mode where you've applied for the applied practice course, or getting ready to get yourself launched into the business of real estate. And it's an important phase because you actually have some opportunities to really prepare yourself and become much more aware of what the business of real estate is really all about. To talk more about that in specifics, today's episode is about the big why. And we've touched on this subject in various other sections already. The big why in our kind of core values of the 7 essentials to success in real estate sales is really the top of it all. It really defines everything. And the reason why this is so important is, to a large part, you are, I don't want to say alone, but you are on your own. You are the boss, right? So if you are the boss, you get to make the decisions. You set the pathway, the mapping of how you're going to run your business, what your business, your life, your activities is going to look like. And that is best done with a clear, well-articulated roadmap, a set of goals, a set of objectives, a set of purposes. And if you have attached some really good reasons why you're doing this, then it may actually feel, act, and operate a whole lot less like a job, but more like a passion, a something that you are truly, at a very deep core level, are committed to achieve. And, it's, in a previous session, we talked about financial preparedness, but the mind preparedness, your awareness of that this truly is an opportunity, a business that you drive the bus. You get to make all the decisions, good, bad, and indifferent. And that's not always easy. I have to tell you that for a lot of people, taking on that responsibility is actually one of the more underestimated impacts on your life, right? A good number of us either come from, a career in some organization, some entity, whatever it is, coming directly from school or a university, or having had previous careers in other different industries or professions, for-profit, non-profit, government, in-service, manufacturing, production, mining, logging, teaching, accounting. It doesn't really matter. Lots of us have had previous experiences where we were not necessarily 100% responsible for all of the tasks, activities, and so on. Now you are. Right? Yes, you are under the umbrella of a brokerage, but that brokerage is not there to tell you what to do, when to do it, how to do it, where to do it, why to do it. You get to make those decisions. And it's a really big difference from what a lot of people think it is. So that's why the big why is such a fairly significant topic in everything we discuss, because without that clarity, without knowing where you're going, how the heck do you know whether you ever arrive? And how do you know which steps it takes to have a reasonable likelihood of a chance to get there? I hope that makes sense. So some of the things we're going to talk about is, right, it isn't all about skills, this business. If it was strictly about skills, I think a lot more people would succeed at it, but it's not. Okay? When your why is big enough, you will find your how, says Les Brown. Pretty good pretty good reason to know what your why is. The how becomes easier. Somebody told me many, many years ago, knowing that I'm a bit of a car freak, said, well, if you want to figure out if you want something bad enough, put something in its way, right, that you want bad enough, and say, okay, what are you willing to do to get this? So he painted this picture of, let's presuppose that somebody offers you a really beautiful 1965 Ferrari 250 GTO, right? There's 50 some odd of those made. Incredible, beautiful car, just a piece of art, right? And, selling today in the millions of dollars. It's unattainable for me, even when I had really high aspirations and high goals. But let's presuppose that somebody said to me, I can get you that car at a ridiculously low price of $1 million, but you have to come up with the money in less than 5 days. Well, a car that is worth literally, I don't know, anywhere between $5 and $20 million. And I've seen them in all kinds of prices, depending on what version and what the pedigree of the car is. So, how big a reason is that for me to start working on it very seriously? Well, be very serious. I'd probably drop everything and go to work on figuring out the how, right? Because yes, that car has definitely been on my radar all of my life. So that's a big one. Right? That's a big reason why to succeed for me as a material thing. Now, there's a whole bunch of non-material things, but I just wanted to give you an illustration as to what the big why might be. And, I've worked with people that have had many, many different big whys. I've told the story about an agent who retired from the practice of real estate because she had achieved her big why, had opened 2 schools in Peru and decided now was the time for her to move to Peru and actually maintain and operate those schools. That was a big why. I'm sorry, I'm going to take a sip. And so what is your big why? So that whatever it is purpose driven. You have a strong reason why you want to accomplish something. So does that become your light beam, your roadmap, your Northern Star? And does that then allow you to reverse engineer that big plan into actionable items so that it can lead you towards achieving those objectives, however big, however small they are, and whenever it is that you set the timing for them? And for many people, that is, in fact, the reason for setting these goals, is that it gives you a purpose, right? It gives you a target. It gives you an opportunity to really laser beam into what it is that is necessary to get you closer and closer to achieving your objectives. And so every year we typically ask agents, where are you at? Right? Where's your big why? How far up the road are you in achieving parts or all of those objectives? I remember an agent who had outlined a whole bunch of his reasons why he wanted to succeed in real estate. So after, I think, year 2, he phoned me up and he said, well, I want to tell you, I'm now debt-free. Personally, he was absolutely 100% debt-free. Now, he had mortgages, but those mortgages were offset on properties that generated revenue. So they were business expenses. So he wasn't, debt-free in the sense of no mortgage, but all of his mortgages were now investment mortgages, i.e. properties that he had invested in, his personal residence was mortgage-free. Right? Big difference. Personal residence, you're paying rent to the lender. If you're buying investment properties and those investments are now paying all of the mortgage and then some, now that's a good debt, right? If you want to know what that means, is go read Rich Dad Poor Dad and the Cash Flow Quadrant and the Guide to Investing by Robert Kiyosaki. You know exactly what I'm talking about. But that's a big why for him. He wanted to be debt free. Then a year later, okay, he phoned me. He said, "I have achieved my next goal." I said, "Okay, what's that?" He said, "Well, I wanted to have $1 million in cash in the bank." I said, "Well, that's not the smartest move." He said, "No, but that wasn't the point. It wasn't about a return on investment. It was my financial comfort zone was having $1 million in the bank, debt-free, that I could access anytime, any place, anywhere, if anything was to happen or if I ever needed it." Right? Now, he subsequently changed that plan and said, obviously I'm going to invest it in yada, yada, yada. Okay, then 2 years later, he phoned me again and said, "Okay, now my loan-to-value ratio on all of my properties, loan-to-value ratio on all of these properties is less than 25%. So he had only 25% or less in debt servicing on any of his properties. Just imagine that. So of the cash flow, 75% of the cash flow was not dealing with debt servicing. His net cash flow was just insane because by the time he retired from real estate, talk about focused, right? By the time he retired from real estate, he owned 300 suites properties. So it was a combination between individual single-family homes with one or more suites in it, apartment buildings, commercial buildings, and so on. 300 plus units, right? Acquired over a period of 18 years in actively being involved in real estate. He was focused. He knew exactly what he was doing and why he was doing and how he was doing, right? Which was exactly the reason why he was in the office at whatever 7:30 in the morning and was out the office by about 8 and was meeting people at 8:15 wherever he could. Right? And he was doing his routine things in a way that was very simplistic, not because somebody cracked the whip, no, because he had a purpose, he had a plan. Right? Now, I haven't talked to him for a good number of years, but the last time we spoke, his plan was to put his feet, as he called it, in every country in the world playing poker. So he wanted to travel the world and, play poker because he loves playing poker in every country where it's possible, and then visit all the countries, neighboring the countries where he could play poker in tournaments, so that he would cover all the countries in the world eventually by the time he's whatever. Now, when I last spoke to him, he had been in nearly 200 countries by that time already. So it made pretty good strides at the time. And this was just before COVID, so I don't know what since happened. So, but just to give you an idea, if you set a goal, set a big why, you'll find a way to do it. You find reasons to do it and how to do it and where to do it. So that gives you just some idea as to how you can use enough inspiration and motivation to get you to do things that may otherwise not be automatic. And it gives you that resilience, that motivation, that inspiration. Now, if you can do that, frankly, the sky's the limit. There is really no limit. It becomes really an exercise of how are you going to get there the fastest. because you'll figure it out. You'll figure out a way. Okay. Now, as it says, it will also build authenticity, which is something intangible almost. But your clients, your people, your sphere of influence, your friends, your family, your loved ones will recognize this because it becomes part of your core values. It drives you. It forms you. It formulates you. It identifies you. Right. So it's really quite something. So some common big whys, right? Obviously, providing financial security for your family. That's it's a pretty common one. Achieve independence, freedom of time. See, it didn't say freedom for money, but freedom of time. If you can get to do what you want to do whenever it is that you want to do it, how free is that? Right? So one of the challenges that many realtors have is, in fact, that very topic, is that they're so preoccupied with something that they forget about balance and time. And they dedicate disproportional amounts of time to achieving this big why, and in the meantime losing sight of everything else that happens around them. And in a good number of cases, therefore, losing their loved ones' connections with their children or family, or the people that got them where they wanted to go. So it's an important piece. And yes, there are definitely a good number of agents out there that are very much on the focus of helping people have better housing decisions, lifestyle decisions, better opportunities for themselves. So there's absolutely that altruistic part to the business. As a matter of fact, one of my goals has always been to help, generate up to about 100 millionaires in the business of real estate. Now, I'm making good strides. I've helped a lot of people be able to reach that, and that's still, something that I'm aspiring to create these 100+ millionaires in the business. Millionaires being debt-free, having more than $1 million in net assets in the bank, right? So that's why the conversation from the previous realtor kind of came to mind as well, of course. And then find a way to contribute to your community. Like I told you about the lady that started 2 schools. So there's many other agents that have done incredible things. I remember a lady in the south side of Chicago who made it her point that in her neighborhood, which was not a great neighborhood, she was dedicating funds to a school and said that if kids, complete their formative education in elementary and high school, she would find a bursary or find the scholarships would pay for the kids to go to college and complete college at no charge. Now, this lady did this, committed to this, 20 some odd years ago, and it is still working to this day. She's since retired. She's now quite a senior lady, but the program continues. And how powerful is that? I mean, how rewarding is that? It's really quite something, right? So you find a reason, you find a purpose, you find a goal, you find a way. Right? So making it vague and ambiguous doesn't work, right? So a big why is not let's make lots of money. What does that mean? Or pleasing somebody else's expectations, right? This really has to come from you. And the deeper you, the better it is. Chasing status, not really all that important. Something vague, something that you can't articulate, not helping. Not really part of a big why. It can lead you to a big why, by the way. Okay, there's oftentimes people just say, okay, now if I have enough money, I'll figure out a way where to spend it, where to dedicate it. That's not entirely untrue, right? However, if you look deeper, and so in the workbook, you'll find an exercise that talks about the 5 whys, right? So literally write down the word why 5 times. So what's your big why? You fill in something. And then you say, well, why is that? Right? Say, for example, I want to make $20 million. Well, why? Well, because I want to buy a boat. Okay, why? Well, I want to travel the world. Okay, why do you want to travel the world? And so on. You keep going deeper and deeper until you get to a point that you really nailed the core of why this is important to you. Right? And if the last answer is because I want my family and myself to be able to make these trips if and when we want to make them and share the experiences with them. Okay, now you're getting somewhere. Right? And you might actually get pretty emotional about it. That's actually not unheard of. That people literally, when they get it, when they get to find their big why, that they actually start crying about it because they'd never accepted that as even something that they remotely could attain or aspire to. Okay? So it's pretty dynamic, right? So, so again, why do I want to be in real estate? It's maybe a bit, you may feel that that's a bit late now that you're almost ready to get licensed, but reaffirming that, reconfirming that, reestablishing that, not only just for, completing your licensing and getting into the business, no, why? Big why. Big why. Right? And what do you want your business to make possible in your life? Are you doing it for somebody? Right? Or what legacy do you want to create? Legacy is oftentimes, certainly with people of my age, becomes a bigger thing, right? But it's something that as you get older, you think about a little bit more, right? What am I leaving behind? I was reading an article that was written about my grandfather and my dad not that long ago. They ran some bookstores in the Netherlands. And I was just struck by the fact that these articles were written well after they had passed. And I'm like, okay, so obviously, in some way, shape, or form, they left something that was important enough for other people to take note of and to write about. And in a way, it was kind of a bit of a proud moment for me, is having had no influence on the article or in their life to that degree to create that legacy. But it was, kind of a grateful moment, so to speak. So legacy can become quite an important part for what goes on in people's life. Okay, right. So here's that that exercise in different ways. Right, write down 3 reasons you want to build a career in real estate. Circle the one that makes you emotional. Expand it into a mission statement, 2 or 3 sentences. That's all. You don't need to write a book. And share it with a partner or mentor or both for accountability. I'm going to add something is for validation as well, particularly with a life partner, right? Are they seeing the same thing you see? Or is there a need to, I guess, to articulate it in such a way that it makes more sense to you, but also to the people that are nearest and dearest? And for a lot of people, they've never done that. They've never actually talked about what's really key in their life. So that may not be a bad, recommendation anyway. So your big why. And this may seem like a chapter, a section out of place at this point in time. But if you're not going to prepare well to enter into the business of real estate, how are you going to be able to articulate what it is that you want to do and where you want to focus on now that you're almost ready to get started? So are you then going to just scatter around and race around and try to learn it all? I can honestly tell you, you'll never do that. You never get that. There's so much to learn that you get lost. So if you have a really clear path, now all of a sudden you can eliminate all the stuff that is not important or is not relevant to your path, right? And yeah, if you want to compare it to roadmaps or flight maps, or a flight map is really every pilot, wherever they fly, have to register a flight plan, right? We're going from A to B, and here is how we're going to get there. And if they deviate, somebody pays attention. If they deviate, somebody takes note. Okay? So what's your flight plan? And, oh, by the way, who keeps an eye on it? Do you? Or does somebody else? Do you have a partner to talk about your big why, your big goal, your roadmap? Or is it your coach, your mentor? And that's, I guess, part of what we do. Is it your brokerage? Is it your team? Who is it that helps you along the way to make sure that any course corrections that are necessary, whether it's because of a storm or a good marketplace or a bad marketplace or just miscalculations or having to do more or less or time or health or other reasons that sometimes will push you off course to bring you back on course. And again, with that big why, with this big roadmap, this really good foundational set of core understandings of this is where we want to go, then the accountability, the purpose, the plans, the activities, the actions, the tasks, the roles, the responsibilities, the frustrations, the disappointments, and the celebrations will all be much, much easier to recognize and attain. So it is really very, 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 very important to do this. So again, journal your big why. Refine it into 2, 3, 4 sentences. Doesn't have to be a book. It doesn't have to be long, right? Now share it with your loved ones and or an accountability partner, and then print it, post it wherever. Have it on your desk, on your wall. On some people put it, in their bathroom mirror, and they make it into an affirmation. Nothing wrong with that. Okay, and then revisit and refine quarterly, because you will find that it will change, and that's okay. Because you're going through a transformative period in your life. You're really rediscovering yourself as you perform all of these tasks and responsibilities that keep you on track towards your goal. So, hope this helps. This is one of these chapters, one of these sections, which unfortunately, too many people kind of skip by and think it is not important. And trust me, I'm guilty as charged. In the beginning of my career in real estate, I just wanted to get on with getting on. I just wanted to, okay, let me get to the clients. Let me talk to people. And very quickly I found out that there's just way too much stuff all over the place that there's no way that you can cover it all. You can't be a generalist in this business. So becoming an expert on some parts of the business is really a good idea, but then you need to know what to focus on. And why would you focus on stuff that you're not at all interested in, that doesn't connect with you as a person, at your core level? So that's, again, that connection between your big why and what you're actually doing on a day-to-day basis then becomes a very good interconnected system that allows you to really be in sync, being in tune with you, the person that ultimately has to do the work. All right, so a couple of reading suggestions, starting with Why by Simon Sinek. real good book. Rick Warren's The Purpose-Driven Life, excellent material, a little bit related, I suppose, to real estate. It's a book by Gary Keller, and yes, Gary Keller is a popular choice by me, mainly because I've known Gary Keller for a long, long time. I've worked in the Keller Williams organization for a number of years. I've always thought highly of their training. Not an organization that I would ever return to for different reasons, but it's Gary written some really key books, and this is one of them. One thing, right? Focus, right? That what do you focus on gets done. What do you focus on gets done. So maybe the book in a nutshell, but the ways to go about doing that, and the big why is definitely one of those ways to go about doing that. So 3 reading suggestions or recommendations. Now, if you ever get stuck, if you ever get to a point where you say, now what? We offer business plans. We talk about all of these systems and programs. We have a whole set of exercises that we can work with you on creating and establishing your big why and your superpower, which are interconnected. I would say all 7 are interconnected, but those 2 are primarily dealing with your roadmap, so to speak. So we can help you with that on a very practical one-on-one level, and if that is important, and otherwise we can certainly provide you with the materials. I hope to see you in the next chapter, the next section of our program, and in the meantime, all the best. Have a fantastic week.
File saved. The Agent Files. For more missions, agents' tools, and tactical strategies, subscribe and follow the Agent Files, powered by Agent Builder Coaching. Until next time, stay sharp. Your next mission awaits.